This is the North Georgia Life Podcast. Embrace life where you live. Welcome back to the North Georgia Life Podcast. Is Jake, your host. Today we're at Blue 42 in Dahlonega, Georgia. Blue 42 is a rather new location, just like on the south side of the square, the downtown square of Dahlonega. It is right across from the University of North Georgia Business College, a beautiful new building right as you approach the downtown square. Blue 42 is the white brick building that is right across from there. And it is a coffee and cannabis shop location. So the first time I went there was probably about a month or 2 months ago maybe, and was meeting a friend of mine who works for the university. We were meeting there for coffee. Hadn't been in there. It had just opened a few months prior, and I was like, this is really cool. I had no idea this was here. It hadn't been there that long at that point, and coffee was really good. Like, you know, if you've listened to more than one episode, I love good coffee. But I got to meet Henry, the owner, who's on the podcast with me today. And coffee and cannabis together is obviously a unique marriage under one roof. You don't obviously see this a lot. You may start seeing this more because, as we talk about in the episode, coffee is a very unifying thing for people. All of us kind of know that. When COVID happened, a lot of us, the first question we were asking was, do I still have a job? What do we do for work? And the second was like, can I still go out and get a cup of coffee? So coffee is only so satisfying when it's in your kitchen, but it is a gathering place. Blue 42 has a great vibe just in terms of the motif, if you will, the setup. It just feels very inviting. The hiring process for their employees, like if you're a small business owner and you're struggling to find good people, like you can ignore everything else if you want to. Listen to how Henry hires people. Like, you will want to take notes and implement this because it made sense when I heard about it. I'd been in his location 3 or 4 times now, and I'm like, oh, this makes total sense. This is how you get good people. And so we share a little bit about that. So if you're a small business owner, an entrepreneur looking to find good people, like, hey, this is some free counsel that can help you. And the other side is in the world and the stigma, or whatever you want to call it, of the hemp cannabis world. So this is not a smoke shop where people are coming in, smoking weed, getting high. That's not, we're not proliferating or endorsing that. But the medicinal, the like legitimate medicinal side of this realm of cannabis it's one of those things that is out there until you reach the end of your limits in terms of what the traditional Western medical industry will help you with. And so I don't think I've shared these stories in any of the past episodes, but I share 2 stories from people that we personally know that there has been like legitimate life transformation for them, for their family, that came about when they reached the end of the line with what the medical hospital system, whatever you want to call that, the Western world that we live in, you just talk about a miserable life and a hopeless life in many senses. They had a massive life transformation by finding a cannabis-based product that helped them with the different symptoms for them personally. There's thousands and thousands and thousands of people that are just like them. And this is where, until it is your family member, until it is your life, until it is your best friend, somebody you care about, this kind of thing, understandably, stays on the periphery. This stays on the voodoo science, or whatever you want to call it. Like, this is not real until all the other stuff that was real can't fix you, can't help them. And then you go outside of the framework of what we have known for the last 50 years of traditional medical. And it's at that point when you when you are in that level of desperation, that you will kind of like, as long as it's not going to kill me, I will try anything, because I've got to make this situation better. And then when it does get better, you honestly, you kind of feel like a little bit of a doofus, because you just feel like you just got, a lifetime of, we'll just say, propaganda, for lack of a better term, that wasn't necessarily accurate. And it wasn't necessarily truthful. And there were probably some motives and probably some dollar signs behind what was being fed to you. I mean, we just call it what it is. Like we say all the time, like, you want to find the truth, follow the money. Simple as that. So I don't want to go off on too many tangents. We kind of do that in the episode. But hey, have an open mind, have a listen. They got a great coffee. You'll be hard pressed to find better customer service, like brighter smiling faces, than you will at Blue 42 in Dahlonega. So, hey, we're releasing this right before the Bear on the Square, which is April 20th. So April 20th is one of Dahlonaga's big weekend festivals, Bear on the Square. And this will be the Blue 42 grand opening celebration. So as we say in the episode, you literally couldn't have planned it better. A coffee and cannabis shop having Bear on the Square the same weekend, happens to be Saturday, which is April 20th, which is 420. So, I mean, you got to laugh at that. Like, you literally, the galaxy could not have aligned the stars better for that. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, North Georgia Life Podcast at gmail.com if you have suggestions on future episodes. And hey, our only ask in the podcast is that you would share it with others, that you would subscribe so that you get new episodes as soon as they're launched. And if there's anything we can do to help make the podcast better, more impactful for you, like, by all means, send us an email. We're happy to do that. And if there's anything that we can do, if this episode makes you ask questions about things that you may be dealing with or struggling with or have questions about, we may not be the best resource for you to find those answers, but by all means, send us an email and ask. And if we can't help you, we will try to route you to someone who can, because so many people just need help. They just need some questions answered, and we are isolated many times in our struggle, and we just don't know who to ask for help. So if we can be that help for you in bridging that gap for you to find some connection, some relief, some friendships, like a good cup of coffee, that's what we're here for. With that, we'll get started at Blue 42. Welcome back to the North Georgia Life Podcast. It's Jake, your host. Today we are at a place, so sometimes I've not been or had a whole lot of exposure to the places we do in the podcast. This one I've been to now, I think, 3 times in the last 5 weeks, so I'm becoming a regular. And we are at Blue 42 in Dahlonega, Georgia, and it is a newer, I'm going to say a newer staple of the Dahlonega, North Georgia area. And we are with Henry Oskazuski.
You got it.
Yeah, Henry O. So Henry, thanks for your time. I know we're after hours, so I know I'm making your day a little bit longer.
It's the best time to get me. I mean, when you're a new store owner or an entrepreneur, there really is no time off unless when you're sleeping.
Yeah. Give us a little background on you. Like, you a Georgia native? Are you from here?
No, I grew up in Florida, Boynton Beach, little beach town in Palm Beach County. I have an identical twin brother.
Okay.
So he and I excelled at sports growing up in South Florida. We had the opportunity to play for legendary coach Bobby Bowden at Florida State University. Kind of dating ourselves, we played with Deion Sanders for a couple of years.
Wow.
So just a really good period of college football. Mm-hmm. Then both my brother and I went on and had an opportunity to play professional football. I went to Pittsburgh Steelers as a free agent. He went to Miami Dolphins. So that was short-lived, but we had the opportunity, and
That's
it was
awesome.
a great experience. NFL stands for not for long when you're in it, but it was all good. I mean, and the reason that we got into the industry that we're in and created a coffee shop with cannabis products was because CBD showed the propensity to slow down CTE, which is chronic traumatic encephalopathy, which is a brain-related disease from basically at a young age, starting in not necessarily the concussions, but the repetitive, head trauma that you get playing a contact sport like football.
Yeah. And so when did you step out of the football ranks approximately when? About what age were you?
I was about 22, 23.
Okay.
And yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then what did you do then? Because that's when you've been football is life, and then now you're transitioned out of that. What is that next step?
Yeah, it's a difficult transition. Any football player will tell you.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily. There's a lot of people that live for that, the 80,000 fans and all that, and that is euphoric, playing in front of that many people, and you definitely feel that energy when you're playing. We had really great fans at Florida State, great band, just great people, but it's that camaraderie that day to day, you're around your teammates 7 days a week. Back then, you eat every meal with them, you hang out with them, you become a fraternity for 4 or 5 years when you're at a university, and the testament of that, some of my best friends to this day are my teammates. And so that's the hard part, leaving that kind of 4-year commitment or involvement of hanging out with the same guys, having fun, joking, going out, doing what you do. But that's the hard part. And then transitioning, obviously everyone who's a young kid aspires to play the NFL and make a bunch of money. I quickly learned that, it wasn't necessarily money that even drove me back then. I did like art and architecture. I showed an interest in that. And my mom would take me to art classes and things like that outside of my football and the other sports I was playing. So I actually got an interior design degree from Florida State University. So from there I went into, my first job was an intern with Barnett Franzek Architects in Tallahassee, graduated, and then actually went to work for them for a few years and worked on some amazing projects, historic restoration projects, the stadium project. So I got really good exposure to architecture, design, historical preservation, sustainability, and, an early age in my career. I did that for a good while. 2008 hit, and as you know, anyone who went through that recession, people were not building at that point.
Anything.
They were not building anything. And at that point, I transitioned into store design, working for a company called Pavlik Design Team in Fort Lauderdale. They were the largest store design company in the world at that time. So we're doing projects all over the world. So it was amazing. So working for Barnett Franzek, just back to that, was a great experience. Opened my eyes to a lot. Got me in my next job in design, which was store design. So I was doing a lot of Lord & Taylor's, Macy's, Burdines, working for basically the two big store companies at the time, which was May Company and Federated. One of the cool projects, got to travel mostly continental U.S. I got to work on projects all over the world. Then spent a little bit of time in yacht design. So that whole, I got to take, a lot of times you're designing for clients and you don't have an opportunity to, I've done some residential, but mostly it was in that commercial space. So it's just, now I got to build a space that I like and feel. And, I think it's resonating. So it's just taking that 30 years of experience in design, building something clean, timeless, simple, and then incorporating the elements that I want to sell in that space.
Yeah. Did you do something like Blue 42 somewhere else, or what brought you here to the Dahlonega area?
That's a great question. My brother and I are both avid outdoorsmen. We grew up fishing, saltwater fishing, actually run out to the Everglades and fishing the Everglades for bass. So we were always involved in fishing, hunting, and all those sports. Got introduced to that when we were in Tallahassee. So just really became really integrated into outdoor sports. Loved it. Hiking, got into snowboarding early. So we were cruising out to, at that time it was Breckenridge before they shortened it, but in the early 90s. And then we would always venture up here. A lot of our friends lived in Griffin or Cumming or that area when we played ball with. So we started venturing up here in the Dahlonega and fly fishing Dix Creeks, Waters Creek, and all those spots, the Dakota River, in the early 90s. My good buddy had a place in Blue Ridge, a cabin. So just really fell in love with the North Georgia mountains. And
did you move up here at that point?
It took me a while to get up here. South Georgia, I was in Tallahassee, I was in South Georgia for a while, and then moved back to Florida. And just really, Florida wasn't what it was when I grew up. And it was just exploded, had an explosion back then as far as just people moving there. It wasn't the small town I grew up in. So I wanted to kind of get away from that and raise my kids in a small town.
Yeah.
So we landed in Cumming, Georgia, and I love the North Georgia mountains. So I moved up here and made this my home probably around 2009, 10.
Okay. Your coffee shop, what was the inspiration of doing, we were talking about before we started, just how coffee just connects people. Like I don't know how to relate to people who don't drink coffee. Like, have you tried it? Do you know Folgers is bad coffee?
Yeah.
You know?
I think it was like, I didn't want to be short-lived, and I wanted to create a marketplace. Coffee is something that we have that brings people together, and we have really good coffee. I've been following Jittery Joe's for a long time. I was researching websites, and this is 15 plus years ago, maybe longer, when I first moved here. And they just had a really cool website. I was like, Jittery Joe's. This came up as a website design, and then started reading about their brand. Athens is a town I like going to. I've been going to Athens for many years to watch music and obviously watch Georgia Bulldogs play. So just have friends over there. Brad Johnson, I played with him at Florida State. He played for Tampa, won the Super Bowl, quarterback. So he's over there, visit him. A friend of mine, Magdiel Shahaway, was there, played with him. So just had connections to Athens and loved their coffee. And had an opportunity just to build that relationship through the hemp industry.
Really?
Yeah, Stan Kavinovich, he was a mentor of mine. He passed a couple years ago, or last year, but he started a company called Evo Shield. But he got into cannabis, and he and I just built a relationship through growing our crop and working together. And he actually, and his son, bought the franchise of Jittery Joe. So all of their, not necessarily the roaster, but he bought all the cafes.
Gotcha.
So Grant owns the cafe. So it just was a perfect, like, I think all this whole journey of mine has just been like divine. Like, I don't worry about things. I just know I pray about it, I manifest, and it happens. It's to surround yourself with good people, people you can trust.
The cannabis side of your business, this is a realm that I think there's, I don't want to say if there's an awakening, that's not the right term, but there's some of the stigma I feel like is finally coming off of that whole realm of
It is
medicine, for lack of a better term. And I don't want to say industry either, but what's that journey like, and what brought you into that to bring that now into a pairing with a coffee shop?
Yeah, I think to answer that question, I built a coffee shop so I can sell my cannabis and a place to actually celebrate and educate people on cannabis. Before that, we were just an online shop, and most stores are, or they're a smoke shop. So there is not, especially on the East Coast or in the Southeast, it's not, what we're doing is not novel, but for this area it is, and we're even ahead of the legalization of cannabis here. Just read an article, the FDA, cannabis is a Schedule I drug, which means it puts it up there with cocaine, heroin. All those drugs really have no health benefits. Cannabis has, FDA saying, has a lot of health benefits. There's a lot of children that are benefiting Epidiolex right now for seizures. I can tell you anecdotally, the customers that actually use our cannabis products, whether it's our CBD or Delta 8 or any of those, they're helping them with their sleep, their anxiety, their PTSD. I can't tell you that that's what it does as a product, but I can tell you anecdotally that's what our customers come and buy for, because it helps them. So anecdotally it works, and there's also studies. They know it's good for you. I think cannabis is the genus of the plant. Hemp, basically they distinguished hemp and marijuana. Marijuana has been categorized as that psychotropic part of it, THC, where you get high, and there's so many stereotypes around that. But I know a lot of people that use it as medicine. Any medicine can be abused. All we have to do is look at the opioid crisis that we had. So the thing is, an opioid is a petroleum-based chemical. Whereas in plant-derived, but cannabis is pure. I believe that God put everything on this planet for us, and cannabis can be used in so many different ways. Everyone focuses on the medicinal and recreational side of cannabis, but not to say that nobody focuses on it, but there's an industrial side of cannabis. This table we're sitting at is made from hemp. That back wall, all of our aprons that our coffee smiths wear and our bud smiths wear, they're made by Patagonia. They're cannabis.
Wow.
It's hemp. Hemp plastic. We can't keep our hemp milk in stock. So there's a lot of uses for hemp, a food, a sustainable product and packaging, paper, so I want to help our ag commissioner. The fight they have under Gold Dome right now is always about the legalization of marijuana. Everything's focused on that. And I'm not focused on that. It's going to happen, to your point you said earlier, that the stigma is coming down. People are starting to understand that there is medicinal and recreational side of this, no different than, although Dahlonega is tough, no different than a liquor store that's down the street. I can't tell you how many people I know are alcoholics or die from alcoholism, but I can't tell you anyone who's died from using cannabis. Not saying that somebody can't get in a car and make a poor decision using cannabis, but no one's going to overdose on cannabis.
So we have a couple friends of ours that we know personally that have used it. One of them, one of the first people I met. Most people, this is in the, I don't want to say like the woo-woo category of medicine, but let's just call it that. Until nothing else works. Until you need an answer behind another door for your family, a loved one, whoever. And so this was somebody we connected with maybe 3-4 years ago. Her daughter had, I think, has cerebral palsy. And when she was, and I don't know how old she is now, but let's just say she's 16 now. When she was, half her age, 6, 7, 8, she was having like constant multiple seizures every day. Like doctors couldn't help her. It was just going to be like, this is the rest of her life until her body surrenders to this and dies. This is that. And if you're a parent, if you're a bystander and somebody says, there's medicinal elements to it and it hasn't affected you, it's like, yeah, whatever. We got other things. When it's your kid, it's a different ball game. It's like we used to say with our stuff with our son, like everybody has a theory until it's your kid that the theory is true about, and then everything changes. And what this was probably 12 years ago. So the mom figured out somehow how to get, and I don't even remember the name or the brand or whatever it was, but it was the cannabis oil. And within a couple weeks, her seizures were gone. And she, like, life transformation. I mean, it's already hard enough having a child who's disabled like that. Couple that with seizures, you already feel helpless as a parent. Then you have that on top of your helplessness as a parent. And then your doctor's just telling you, sorry, we can't do anything. And then in a couple of weeks, this thing, that has this aura about it that everybody thinks is straight out of Scooby-Doo, now that has healed your child of at least the seizure part. And then we had a friend of ours, this is, I think it'll be 3 or 4 years ago, this July, was at a party gathering, just a barbecue on 4th of July weekend. Fight breaks out, the neighborhood's house next door. Somebody pulls a gun out, fires off a shot, stray bullet hits her directly in the back of her spine. She didn't, like, you talk about innocent bystander, like had no involvement in it whatsoever, and is paralyzed from the waist down, and has, I guess in the medical world, it's the phantom pain, where she's having horrific pain that comes in waves from nerves that the doctors are saying should not be feeling anything. So they're trying to give her drugs. It's making her a zombie. She's like, I can't live like this. I mean, it's horrendous. And to the point that we were like, we don't know what else. We're like, we got to try something. Went to a CBD store by us, got some of the gummies, brought them to her. I think my wife still has the voicemail. She left. She was like crying and laughing at the same time, because it was the first night she had been able to sleep through the night without any pain, and was, and that had been going on for, I think, almost 2 years.
I mean, I hear stories like that every single day. I mean, I think part of my education is pulling out some of the history and teaching people why it was prohibited and the propaganda that went behind it. I mean, some of it was racially driven back from the the 20s, when you had, I loved him because my grandfather listened to him. You had the great Satchmo.
Louis Armstrong.
Just listening to that in the wonderful world. He was a heavy cannabis user. They didn't like the fact that there was African American men smoking, and these were musicians, and they were intermingling with, the white women in Memphis and Chicago and those places like that during that whole jazz, boom. Then you had the newspapers that didn't want any competition, and we're seeing that today. Didn't want any competition from hemp. They were all land barons and had pine forest. Cotton industry doesn't want to see, take any market share away from it. DuPont invented nylon rope. Well, guess what? When he invented nylon rope, he didn't want any competition. What did he do? He had hemp put in with cannabis, marijuana, during the reefer madness propaganda, and had it prohibited for 70 years. However, during World War II, they actually had a PSA, hemp for victory, where they said, hey, there's, I guess, an embargo where they're getting all their jute, whatever, from Southeast Asia. They couldn't get it, so they were basically going, farmers, grow hemp. We need hemp for ropes for our ships. So there's this big PSA for farmers to start growing hemp again for the war effort. So the government has used this plant as a tool. They know the medicinal and medical value of the plant, but now you have big pharma that stepped in. So modern medicine, I think, has gone awry. It's driven by money anymore. It's not by compassion. And same with the pharmaceuticals. When you see what the drug industry did with opioids, I lost a brother-in-law to opioids. It hits home. And that's the big fight we have to now.
This was a few years ago, we went through this season where I like to read, I love watching documentaries, I've never seen an episode of Game of Thrones, I've never seen an episode of Walking Dead, I'm sorry, don't
I'll have a TV.
Don't throw me out because of that, but I'm just so fascinated. I think that's what it is. I was telling some folks a month ago, I'm the guy who's fascinated by the radio. That you can build a little thing that can take invisible waves and make it come out. It's mind blowing to me. And I'm just I have that mind. But I went through this documentary season where I was just once you start watching those, then Netflix or Amazon or HBO Max or whatever, it starts giving you new suggestions. And one of them, I can't remember what it was called, but it was on hemp, it was on cannabis, and I can't remember. There's a couple of them out there, but it talked about, and I think it was in the 60s and 70s when Big Pharma started. When that started, that is when, and that's when the cannabis was, like you said, the propaganda, the outlaw, but they showed old medical journals that had cannabis in there for medical treatment in the United States, in the last century, legitimate medical books. And we kind of cringe and laugh about it at the same time. My wife and I are actually talking about this past weekend about the hospital system in general, and that it's no longer about true patient care. It's a for-profit business, which is why you always have more beds available during the holidays, because they send people home because they're short-staffed. It's not because a bunch of people got well. All of a sudden.
That's a good point.
Yeah, and anybody in the hospital system knows that. But just that the concept of if it doesn't come from my primary care physician, it has to be false, or it has to be some,
Rockefeller did a great job of taking over the medical industry, and that's what he did. He created the schools, he created the medical boards, so he did a really good job of making sure that he indoctrinated those doctors. And if you do your research, all of our government does, they indoctrinate you into a belief system, and I don't believe it. The reason why they don't want cannabis or don't want it to be mainstream as a medical benefit is because they can't patent it, because it's a plant, it's an herb. So you can't patent anything unless it's been manufactured, altered, or changed, or create a patent around it. So I want to talk about the good things, and not that that's bad, but it's a history of this plant, and it's what I ran into by just putting cannabis on the outside of my building. I mean, people don't know what to do with that. We named our company Blue 42. Blue 42 is an audible. When a quarterback gets when the quarterback used to get under the center, now it's all shotgun, no huddle. But Blue 42 just meant you called the play in the huddle, you went to the line of scrimmage, and whatever play you call, the quarterback says, we're going to get stuffed on this play. The defense is set up to just stuff this play. So you see the weakness in the offense, on the defense, and he calls an audible. Blue 42 is one of them. Usually means you're 4 gap or 2 gap, and whatever the hot color is. Like, for instance, Manning always said Omaha, made that famous. So in business, like that sign, we had to call some audibles, and even being in the cannabis industry in Georgia, we're calling audibles, every day. There's legislation out there right now. I got to read it. I haven't seen the latest result, but legislation is trying to put some parameters around. And right now, literally Georgia right now is the wild, wild west when it comes to the cannabis laws. I mean, you can go to any gas station here in town and get Delta 8, THCA, all those things. I think it's important for communities to make sure that whoever is selling cannabis, because it's a drug. I mean, it has psychotropic properties. Anything you put in your caffeine or coffee is a drug. It's a stimulant. But while accepted, there are side effects for some people from it. You can see what my drug is. I'm sitting here at 300 pounds because it's not only a lot of vegetables. I like food. I like sugar. But anyway, you can abuse anything is what I'm saying. And I want to make sure that we're selling it responsibly in our community. And, you have to be 21 to buy any of our products. It's not a law. You don't have to be in Georgia. But I just want to set those standards. I want to make sure everyone in our business that's selling it is 21. They're educated on it. We have a responsibility to sell it safely to the community, and we're going to do that. We work with SJ Labs down in Macon. They're helping put some of the parameters around. We're making sure that all of our product, it's organic, it's grown locally. Our tagline for our farm is know your source, feel the difference. And I want to make sure that I know the farmer that grew it. We worked on our genetics too. The fun thing was when I came to Georgia, it was wide open. So when we started our cannabis company, growing hemp, I wanted to name them indigenous to Georgia. The farm we got our genetics from, Boulder Hemp, named theirs Santa Maria, San Cinco, indigenous to that Colorado kind of Spanish, kind of Mexican, appeal that was in that region of Colorado. And so we named ours indigenous to Georgia. So we have Georgia pine, red tail, Cherokee rose, and kudzu. So, and we want to pay respect to the natives. Cannabis grew naturally here all over North America at one point in time. It was a natural plant that just grew that the natives used. Everyone thinks they put cannabis in their peace pipe or peyote. They're actually smoking tobacco. Tobacco is sacred to the natives, from what I've learned. But the whole reason for building this place was so I can sit here and have this conversation with you and other people in this community to teach them and break down those stigmas of this plant, that this plant helps a lot of people. And there's a lot of benefits to the sustainable solutions that this plant provides as well. So, and people can touch it and feel it. I'm not just this is a page on a web page where people see a picture. They can come in here. There's cannabis sitting right there in the windowsills as dried flower. It's not going to jump out and bite you. It's not going to get you high. It's a plant, So we want people to do that. And we're doing that. That's the goal. And what better way to do that than have a place that people feel comfortable in. Everything we hear, we create a great vibe here, because we keep it clean. We invite everybody. Everyone is welcome, and they feel that. We hire people that I ask them, we don't have interviews, we have tryouts. And I want to see how everyone's acting with everyone. I want to see how they're interacting. I can teach somebody how to make, a latte. I can teach somebody, how to bake. I can teach all that if they're interested. I can't teach them how to interact with people if they don't already have that. I can't, and I want them to share their goodness. That's what I say, what's your goodness? I want you to share that with the community when you're here. And a perfect example of that, one of the young ladies that just left, Lucy, and Maddie, she's not here. We had a guy walking on the sidewalk a few weeks ago. He was intoxicated, don't know with what, but it was raining. He looked like he's still dark out, so it was before daylight savings. Looked like he's going to walk out in front of a car. He laid down over there in front of the business school. I can't run anywhere with my injuries, my back injury and my hips and things like my knees. They ran over there and consoled him, and he asked for the veteran suicide hotline. So here's a veteran in our town that was seeking help. And these kids actually consoled him, said, made him feel like a hero. They were heroes that night. So it inspired Maddie to start just writing little sayings on the cup. And I know it inspired your wife when she came in that day. So that's sharing your goodness. And that's a perfect example of that. So that just spawned from the goodness of, what's happening here. And I can't explain it, but people feel it. And it's just because we have an open, inviting environment, and we listen to everybody. I mean, I don't care what your politics are, what your religion is. Everyone here has a voice, and they can speak it. And we surround ourselves with art and music, and that's where you have this cultural center. I don't want to call it center, but that's what coffee shops have really always been. And when you have a good coffee shop, and Jethro's does a good job with that, Canopy and the Roots does a good job with that, and so does Bare Necessities, each in their individual way. But for me, I love coming to work every day because I never know. I know what I have to get into. I know what I have to do, but I never know what that aha's gonna be like. Wow, that was so cool. Or, I'm glad I met that person, or the relationships that I'm building, and the different marketing opportunities, like even talking with you and doing this podcast. We have to build community. I mean, I think that's what's missing. I don't know how old you are, but we had a community when I was young. We all went out and played till the streetlights came on. Everyone's heard that, but we had our little community. We had our little corner store we all went to. We knew who the clerk was. We bought our candy and our Coke, bought our Coke bottles in and traded them out for a diet. We had that, and these kids don't have that. Yeah. And the community really doesn't have that. So I think it was a nice void to fill. I'm just, we're going to have farmers markets out in the parking lot. We're going to have concerts. It's just and there's other people doing it. I'm not the only one doing it, but that's what builds community. Actually,
this morning was talking with a guy, and he works predominantly with middle school and high school kids. And I left that conversation thinking, this is the most connected generation that has ever existed on planet Earth with the least amount of connection.
Because they're connected to the matrix.
They're connected to their phone, technology, and we wonder why there is so much, sadness, suicide, depression, anxiety, and it's because of exactly what you said. That thing that all of us who are, let's say, 35 and older, that was our growing up. We didn't have that kind of anxiety or stress or whatever. We just, like a bad day was your bike got a flat tire, you had to walk home.
Yeah. That's why I don't stress here. Because I know, financially, it's hard starting a business. I mean, you're a real estate agent, so there's nobody. You're a real estate agent.
I tell people, I'm like, if you don't go to work, no one else is going for you. Yeah. The same thing with when I talk with students, especially about being entrepreneur or in whatever they're going to. I'm like, you got to understand, like, you're your cleaning crew. You're your marketing. You're your admin. Like, you're the phone service. Like, you're all of those things.
This hat spins around my head all day long.
You're merchandising. You're all those things. And so understanding like when it's your passion, like you just kind of have this built-in muscle for it because that's what you want to do. It's not something you force people to do. I think your comment about the tryouts is great because I have probably the first person who shared this with me. He was on a podcast that I did, I think the first season, up at Waterfall Club. So Jason and I used to work with each other down the road here, and he had this like amazing gift of he worked in the food and beverage industry. Now he's a general manager for a golf club, and he could teach someone somehow. It's like the restaurant whisperer, how to come to a six top, and with their hands behind their back, remember every person's order without writing down a single thing, and get it right every time. I have, to this day, I'm like, I have a hard time remembering one person's name when I walk away. and I saw it with multiple people, and I'll never forget him sharing. He said, I will 1,000% hire the right person over someone who is experienced, because if it's the right person, I can train them to do things the way that they need to be done, the way I want them done, and I have less to untrain them from. So like, and
same thing in sports.
It's exactly like you can teach someone how to run a route. You can't teach them how to want to wake up and be at practice on time. All of those things, and that's so much of the stress and the agony that people have about their resumes. We're sitting right across from the business college at UNG. All of those things, I'm like, man, like if employers would just get behind that and say, and a lot of I do some help with the mock interviews at the business college, and I try to help students who are intimidated by their lack of resume. I'm like, why don't you just ask your employer, like, you're going to train the person who does this to do it the way you want it, right? And they're like, yeah, of course, because that's what they want. They don't want you to come in. They don't want you to come in and tell you how to do it.
Right.
And so then I said, then it's a matter of they have just affirmed to you that they're going to teach whoever they hire to do it the way they want it done. So your experience is now nowhere near as valid as they think it is, as you thought it was. Now it's a matter of, are you the right person to be trained?
Right.
And that's where the intangibles from your resume can really be the benefit to you. I'll never forget, this is a sidebar here, never know when we're going to go on a podcast. There was a young girl, she's probably a sophomore, didn't have a whole lot of experience, had different jobs, high school and college, that were all in, like, I think she was like a business major or something in that world. But her jobs had been around, I think she was in like a nursing home, she did like nannying, it was things like that. And we kind of did the part of the mock interview, and then it's just kind of the feedback time. And I said, I feel like, she was an introvert, and so I'm like, I feel like you don't come across with confidence because you don't feel like you have experience that you should have for this job. And she was like, yeah. I said, but I look at your resume and I said, you know, the thing that stands out to me, I said, you have a huge amount of care inside of you. Like, because no one at your age does these jobs if they don't have a deep level of care for the people around them. I said, you pick up that and leverage that in an interview, I said, you have no competition. Because you are going to be the best coworker, you're going to be the best employee, like, you're going to have more care than anyone else they could hire. And you kind of got that chip on your shoulder of, like, I'm not the most qualified person for the job. So you're going to work even harder with all that care that you bring to the table. And it was like this eureka moment. I could, like, watch it on her face of, like, never connecting those dots.
And then that's why I have tryouts, because, like I said, I can teach any one of them how to do anything in here, how to clean, just what we do. I mean, it's just an operating procedure. Yeah. But I can't teach them. I don't know what their goodness is until, and I ask them, what's your goodness? And some of them don't even know what that is. Like, what do you mean goodness? Like, well, what do you want to share with this community? Like, what's your gift? What are you studying? And then what are you studying in college? I'm a marketer. I'm an artist. Okay. Musician. Okay. That's your gift. How are you going to share that with our community? And because I just don't want somebody, and the thing that the hardest thing for me, and we're going to have a Cheers night, they didn't know what Cheers was, the sitcom Cheers.
Oh.
Norm. So,
What?
Everyone knows your name. And for me, I know this because I'm in marketing and I worked with companies like Starbucks. Starbucks writes the name on the cup, so that's marketing. They call your name out. They make you feel like, like you belong. That's what everybody's looking for, a sense of belonging. The hardest thing for me, having kids that were baristas elsewhere, we have coffee smiths. I don't want to be a barista. We're a coffee smith. I said, ask them your name. And so they're like, can I get a name for the ticket? I said, no. When you ask somebody a name for the ticket, you're just making it a transaction. I don't want it to be a transaction. I truly want you to know the name of our customers. Like, learn it and introduce yourself to them. I want people to know your name. I want them to feel when they come in, Allie, Danny, those people. I want them to feel like when they walk in this door and they're getting it, because when they see somebody pull in, they're making their drink before they even come in the door. Yeah. That's what I want people to feel like this is their space.
Give me a short snippet of your menu offerings, what are your top things that are ordered from your cafe menu, and then you mentioned the 4 strains of cannabis. What's the difference of those? Is it oils, gummies? Well, like, what?
So we'll start in the bakery. We'll start in the bakery or start in the marketplace. So all of our paninis are choice. I mean, I think our favorite is probably our Italian. We use a capicola. We use or ham, depending on what we have in the market that day. So capicola ham, pepperoni, and it's It's really good. Press it on the penny machine. The other thing, we started, and we didn't build out a really robust menu. We still don't have one because we really want to hear from our community what they're looking for. I don't want to go too far, green. I don't want to go too far. We don't have any fried food. Everything's baked, and we don't have a grease trap, and we never will in this building. But our avocado toast is probably our number one seller.
Yeah.
It's not the easiest thing to make, but it is fresh. And everyone loves our avocado toast. Our muffins are second. Our muffins are choice, and then our croissants are really good. So we're not doing homemade yet. We will. We had a baker back out at the last minute, so we had to just call an audible.
Yep.
We did, but we're using top tier products. We have to proof all of our croissants. They come in frozen, so there's no preservatives. We proof them and then put them in our oven. Is a Mayway oven, so it's a German oven. And it's designed to cook convection oven to pastry. So the other thing we're going to get into, we haven't yet, we're going to do personal pizzas. So we'll do a really nice personal pizza. I know there's some pizza places open, but we're not trying to compete with, you just do a nice personal pan pizza. We're going to call it lunchroom pizza. Remember the lunchroom pizzas we had when we were kids? But it'll be those that, square kind of oval pizza, but it'll be really good ingredients.
Yeah.
And then if we move over to, and then of course our desserts. Our chocolate stuffed croissant, a cannoli stuffed croissant, is, I've had one each, and I can't eat those because they're addicting. But so those do well. And then of course every day at 4:20, we hand out our chocolate chip cookies, and everybody loves that. So it's just novel, 4:20, and I can't hand out cannabis, but I could definitely hand out a really nice chocolate chip cookie. Warm cookie. There's nothing beats a warm cookie. On the cannabis side, our CBD, we have several flavors in oil. So we went the wild berry, orange blossom, our peach, our Georgia peach is the number one flavor. And then in our gummies, our Delta 8 gummies, we have cherry, which is the number one flavor. We have kudzu. Kudzu actually can be harvested. Kudzu, if we ever had a shortage of anything, you can actually eat kudzu like lettuce, and you can actually, every year, August, September, it produces a beautiful purple flower just like wisteria, and you can actually render that down, boil it, and then make it tastes just like grape jelly.
What?
So it's so good. So we have kudzu as our great flavor, and it's similar to like our plants. I didn't name our cannabis strains until they started expressing themselves, and we were doing crosses between indicas and sativas. Some of them were indica dominant, which is a smaller ruralis, smaller plant, mountainous plant, doesn't grow as tall. Sativa grows tall, lacy, fan leaves. So we let them all express themselves as we cultivated our hemp. And kudzu kind of has it's more of an indica, more of a berry smelling plant. Cherokee rose is more of a floral smelling plant. Georgia pine is a tall sativa with a little bit of indica in it, but it has a really piney smell. Our Cherokee rose is unique because it's about every 32 plants that we cultivate, it has a defect in it, and it produces a white bud or an albino section of the plant. It doesn't produce chlorophyll. So it produces this beautiful white actual cannabis bud.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's pretty unique. This year, we grow about 6,000 plants for Georgia farmers every year.
Wow.
And sell seedlings. We don't do clones. We sell seedlings or seeds. The best way I think to grow cannabis is to actually put the seed in the ground, how it was intended, and let it grow from there. But a lot of farmers like to get that head start and just put a seedling in the ground.
From a just a overall business perspective, if you could give like just a nugget of your business experience, leading you up to this point, if there's something that you kind of came across that you wish you had found out sooner, anything in the business side of this bit of your experience that you would pass along to somebody?
The biggest thing I learned being an entrepreneur and a project manager is be patient, especially when there's regulations and guidelines that are out of your control. I go down every year and go to the Capitol and go into the Gold Dome and talk to representatives and senators. And, but it really comes down to when you start negotiating with them money. That's why there's lobbyists.
Yeah.
And it's campaign fund money and things like that. They hear us and they know we're out there, but yet they're moved by dollar signs. So I would say be patient, be willing to change, try things out, raise your hand, build relationships with people in your community. One of the things we did here, I think that helped us out a lot, is I used all local vendors, as many as I could. I used local electrician, cabinet, Nathan Marshall built our cabinets, local painters. I use kids, I work with kids from the college, gave them summer jobs and let them work and help me build this and learn different things. And, again, it's work ethic. I look for kids that have good work ethic. It's usually athletes that do. So I try to hire athletes or those that have had an athletic background. As far as running a business, we're not out of the weeds yet. We have capital expense that we put into this building, and every month that comes due. My lease is due, my loan is due, all our goods are due. So it's just I'm blending this. I work full time as a consultant, and I have a good team that runs this during the day. I'm there for those oh shoot incidences, or what do I do here?
Right.
But for the most part, when you hire good people, you train them well. When they're good people, they figure it out. So customer service is important to me, and building a relationship with their customers. We get a lot of people on the weekend that just are coming through town, but it's still, when they come in, I want them to feel the same vibe that everyone feels when they come in, treat everyone with respect. And that's the thing I learned from playing from Coach Bobby Bowden. He was a unique man. He was very smart, very well. He read a lot of books on war and history of war, strategizing. But one of the things I learned from him, he was a strong Christian. He's more like a Baptist minister to us. But one thing he shared and did was he treated Tommy the janitor as just much respect as he did President Clinton or Bernie Slugger or President University. Everyone was treated with the same respect. Didn't matter your socioeconomic class, who you were, from the janitor to the president. So, and that's, he didn't judge anybody, because he knew that we will all be judged someday. So he basically just kind of planted that seed. And you can see it, I don't always agree with a lot of things that Dion does at University of Colorado. He can be controversial, but I know behind closed doors what he's teaching those men. And it's integrity, and it's not easy. Yeah, he'll tell you it's not easy, and he's made some decisions that not everyone agrees with. But I know he's making them. And Dion's Dion, but I know he has Coach Bowden in him, and I know he's teaching those kids, those manners, that philosophy, that work ethic, that same thing that was ingrained in us. It's forged. That, and that's what I'm saying. If you don't have that background and you are taking a business over, find someone who has that, like you said, that passion for it. If you don't have the passion for it, then you need to step aside, because people run businesses into the ground because they don't, and I don't know everything. That's the thing too. I mean, you can not know everything. There's no way. The internet helps you find things that you want, but I listen to my mentors. I have a lot of great mentors in business, mentors and just outside even business that I listen to. My landlord here has helped me navigate some things here. He's been here his whole life. So I listen to him. My farmer, he's been growing for over 50 years. I've been growing hemp since 2016. I'm going to listen to him. I think we need we're going to harvest this weekend. No, we're not. We're going to harvest next weekend. Yes, sir. Or we're going to plant here. We're going to plant when we're going to plant. Yeah. I listen to him because he knows how to grow plants up here in North Georgia. He was actually growing in the 70s illegally. It's just, you can't know everything. Yes, am I driven? Yes. Do I have, egos? I think, for me, that's edging God out. I know what my direction is. And that's the other thing too. Everyone's going to be telling you how to run your business. But if you're passionate about what you're doing, you have a plan, you know your vision, definitely listen, but, stay focused on what your plan is. And I have a backlog of amazing opportunities that are out there still to this day, what we want to do out of this place. This place is a think tank, just a spawning ground for all the things that we want to do, which will be hemp derived. Everyone thinks that we opened this store across from the business school or University of Georgia so we can sell a bunch of cannabis products. That, I would tell you, if we looked at our demographic, 90% of the people that are buying our cannabis products are baby boomers. They're not the kids. Wow. They're baby boomers. And yes, I do want to partner with the university, but not in a way that they think. We first, 2 years ago, we partnered with Sustainability Club. So we teach them, introduce them to the plant. They come out and harvest for the last 2 years. We show them how we introduce them to the crop, how to grow it. We show them the sustainable materials that you can make from it. There's the School of Entrepreneurship there. There's over 50,000 uses for hemp. We're going to be the Shark Tank or hemp field for that university, for these young minds that want to come over here and say, hey, there's chemistry, hemp plastics, polymers. there's paper, there's fiber, and not just an industrial, but also the arts. So you can use all that in the arts as well. So there's a lot of things that we're going to do and partner with the university, even Appalachian Studies. We can tap into that.
Yeah.
So I'm going to make it very difficult for them to see cannabis as something bad,
right,
when they can see all the good that's coming from it.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I don't want to take up a whole lot more of your time. Thank you for sharing all this. A question I like to do before the end of every episode is called the lightning round, which is a question that has nothing to do with anything that we've talked about.
Yeah.
But I think you've got a great answer to this question. Favorite movie? This is unfair. All of my lightning round questions are unfair. I've realized. Realized that.
Shoot.
Favorite 80s movie?
80s movie. I mean, the first one that comes to mind is Top Gun.
Top Gun. Okay. Yeah.
But then A River Runs Through It.
Ooh.
River Runs Through It and Legends of the Fall.
Gosh.
So
yeah. River Runs Through It was so depressing.
But I have a brother.
Oh yeah.
So I can see the correlation to my brother. There's great quotes in there, and I'm a fly fisherman.
Oh yeah. Yeah, great quotes.
Norman, yeah.
How old do you think Brad Pitt was in it?
Probably in his mid-20s.
I was thinking he's got to be early 20s.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I probably haven't seen that movie in 20 years.
It's one of my favorite movies.
Wow.
Yep.
All right. So how do people find you? Can they order the hemp side of the business, the cannabis side of the business? Or is anything online? Do they need to be physically here?
That's a great question.
How do people connect with you and find you? And then, coffee shop hours and stuff.
Yeah. Coffee shop hours are open from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Saturday. We're closed on Sunday. Okay. We do lease out the space as an event space Thursday, Friday, Saturday. It's available. We do have concerts here. We've had several. We've had a Christmas concert. We've had the Tom Shandy Experience. We do have a grand opening coming up April 20th, which is 420.
There you go.
Now, everyone says 420. It's just it worked out to our favor. It's a Saturday, and Bear in the Square is that weekend, so it just worked into our favor. So I'm going to definitely take advantage as an entrepreneur of 10 to 20,000 people, coming to this town on that day.
You couldn't have planned that better if you tried.
I couldn't have. So that was serendipitous. Yeah. So we're not online right now. We have Blue 42 Market. We're going to expand that site. We're on social media: Instagram, Blue 42 Market. Facebook, Blue 42 Market. But the thing that we're trying to do, and it's difficult because we live in such a digital world, so we're trying to be analog. So I want to reach out to people and support our local paper, like the Dahlonega Nugget, Matt, and advertise in the paper and advertise on our website. Obviously, we do our social media. But I can tell you, the customers and the demographic we're looking to serve is this community. The college kids are going to find you no matter what.
Yeah.
They're going to find you because they know it's a good spot. I'm more trying to put that invitation out to the community. And a lot of those people read the paper. Obviously, they've read the articles and kept up with us over the last 2 years with the Nugget. And then do some billboards and things like that, driving people up to here. And going out and doing festivals and farmers markets where we can start introducing other communities. But we're at 15 Arcadia Street, Dahlonega, Georgia.
Henry, thanks for your time. This is the North Georgia Life Podcast. Embrace life where you live.